Hey, folks, it is October the 16th, and we are discussing the final portion of chapter 14, and that has to do with the Peloponnesian Wars. This isn't going to be our only chapter over these series of wars, I guess you could call it, because they have multiple pieces within it. But this is the part we're talking about now. And so, in that final portion, we have the following terms up on the board. Why were the Athenians mad at Cleon? It's had to do with Specteria and Pylos. Nicias's proposal, Cleon at Specteria, Brasidas, and the peace of Nicias. So I'm going to start that in just a moment after the timer goes off in 30 seconds.
Yeah. You want to talk to each other about it?
Absolutely not.
Wait, Trent isn't here?
Well, yeah, we're missing a few kids today. I think some of it has to do with Friday. I think they got a case of the Fridays, which is kind of like a case of Mondays. Yeah.
Not even.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I kind of noticed that. I remember when I taught this group back when y'all were in sixth grade, and you weren't here yet. It was the same. I had first period, and it was the same grade. Ninth grade was sixth grade back then, and I had a lot of absences first period all the time. I don't know. It's the strangest thing. So, hey, in any case, let's go ahead and discuss this. So, not too many images up for today. If you remember this one, this is Cleon, and so Cleon was a demagogue. Which means he's somebody who's like a public speaker that can sway people to vote and do the things he talks them into. And so, in our portion here, the people got a little upset with them because they were very victorious off the coast of Sparta. The Spartans asked for peace, and Cleon convinced them not to have peace. Now the people, their soldiers who are near Sparta, are starving, and the Athenians are mad. And so Cleon is put in an awkward position where he's promoted to be the general to go fight the Spartans and free their people. And so that's Demosthenes later. The guy who proposes it is this guy here, Nicias. Nicias is going to be a pretty soberly minded Athenian, and he's going to see how foolish Cleon's proposals are. And so he's going to prod him and be like, hey, if you think you're so tough, why don't you go ahead and attack the Spartans and free our people?
And then he actually won.
And then, yeah, he actually won. It was like, and the Spartans gave up. And so when the Spartans gave up, that blew everybody's mind. They're like, wow, you were supposed to be like the undefeatable, brave army that would rather go home on your shield than be a surrendering coward. And so the Athenians were very bolstered by this. And so when the Spartans asked for peace again, they said no, because they decided the Spartans were a bunch of weaklings. And so we see how the Athenians are going from war to peace, war to peace, war to peace. It's very chaotic. And this is one of those things that people throughout the Middle Ages and the Renaissance are going to really criticize democracies over, because democracies can't make their minds up. It's like a fad. It just keeps changing. This is supposed to be a statue of the Spartan general Brasidas. Brasidas is going to be very different from other Spartans. He's going to actually look at, especially after the defeat of Spartans, he's going to say, hey, wait a second. Maybe people who aren't Spartans can be good warriors too. And so he's going to recruit from a lot of the allied cities of Sparta. And he's also even going to recruit Helots, those enslaved people that Spartans hate, to fight alongside him. And he's going to promise them their freedom, and he's going to treat them as human beings. He's not going to treat them as like chattel, as like less than human. And they're going to fight very hard for him. And of course, he's going to die in the same battle where he's going to fight Cleon. And this is going to lead to a peace treaty, the peace of Nicias. And we've already had the peace of Pericles, supposed to last 30 years, but it only lasted 15. We're going to see the peace of Nicias is supposed to last 50 years, but the Athenians, once again, their chaotic democracy is going to come up with some crazy ideas to get rich quick, and it's going to kick the war back off. So it's one of the reasons why you just don't want to have rule by the mob, like a riot. And that's kind of what was happening in Athens.
Was Brasidas actually 4 feet tall?
Maybe he was back then. You know, people were a little shorter back then. So it was nutrition, stuff like that, and illness and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that can stunt your growth if they're not treated while you're growing up. Vitamin and calorie deficiencies, severe illness going out of control and stuff like that for too long can stunt your growth. So who knows, really? Who knows? All right, let's go ahead and let's get our information up here. Well, yeah, when we talk about the fall of Rome, archaeologists discovered through digging across Roman sites all across Europe that there's going to be so much starvation after the fall of Rome that people's skeletons start getting shorter. Like like the Roman generation's like this tall, the next generation they're all like this tall because they're so malnourished. Even their animals, like their cattle and stuff like that, are smaller. So it's really a time of like a lot of suffering. But in any case, that's coming up later. So why were the Athenians mad at Cleon? Why were they mad? Because he...
We'll let them make peace.
Yeah. Cleon convinced Athens to deny peace with Sparta. And now, because they denied peace, what was happening to their soldiers?
Dying.
Yeah, dying what?
Starvation, I think.
Yeah, Athenians near Sparta. Yeah, and what were they saying about the Spartans? They were getting food how?
Pellets.
Yeah, the Helots were promised freedom. Remember, they were trapped on these rocky islands with huge waves. And they're like, hey, Mr. Helot, if you take this bag of food and you swim across that dangerous water and bring it to the Spartan soldiers who are stuck there, we'll give you your freedom. And they're like, yes, thank you, we'll do that. And so they were risking
Especially
their
since the Spartans would just sometimes pop in and kill them.
Yeah. Yeah, so they lived under terror and fear. The idea of being a human with dignity, man, it was so important to them. I mean, just think about like in America's history of slavery, like people would go through huge trials to try to escape slavery. I mean, very dangerous thing. Very important to be free. All right, so we got that, and then so they're like all mad at Cleon. He's like, "Hey, it's not my fault. It's these generals. Your generals really stink. So don't blame me." So Nicias then says, "Well, hey, Cleon, what does he say for Cleon to do?
You should become general then.
Yeah.
You saying that it's their
You
fault.
do it." Yeah. So Nicias proposed that Cleon lead.
Nicias proposed?
Yeah, Nicias proposed that Cleon lead the army versus Sparta. And the Athenians thought this was great. They're like, wow, yeah, we don't like Cleon anymore. And like your book says, so like the more foolish amongst the crowds were like, hey, now we can watch Cleon really suffer because we don't like him anymore. And the wiser were like, we're finally getting rid of this guy who's been causing all of these mistakes within our city and our government.
In other words, there's a power grab.
It is a power
It's
grab,
a
it is.
win-win.
Yeah.
What about the people going into battle with him?
Well, you know,
Yeah, they were big
that's one of
time.
those things. I'm sure, I'm sure they thought it was a noble sacrifice.
Noble sacrifice, and I don't like you either, so.
Well, I mean, we've already seen how they like think about like their own lives in warfare, right? Because they're willing to do things that they're risky. They probably had. I remember with Athens, it's your duty to follow whatever they say to do as far as warfare matters. So it's part of your manhood. You have to do it. It's part of their honor. And so, I'm sorry, Timothy, what'd you say? I didn't hear you.
I don't know.
Okay. So Cleon at Specteria. So Specteria is where the Spartans were, and they were stranded. What does Cleon do?
Die.
Not yet, not yet. That's like,
Is that the other one?
yeah, that's the other one. Sorry, what'd you say, John?
Murdered them all.
Does he?
It is kind of a
No,
thing,
he
so not a
captured a
bad
whole
guess,
lot
I
of
mean.
them. Yes, that's right. So Cleon attacks the stranded Spartans. Who surrendered. Yeah, it's like, what?
Sparta and surrender should not be in the same.
Well, they did it. We're going to see they do it later. So, like the old idea of the Spartans who are willing to die for their country and stuff like that's going to vanish. We've already seen how Spartan generals are starting to be corrupted by Persian wealth. Well, it's only going to get worse. So the Spartans are going to prove that ideal society in which they have self-sacrifice and they're living for their country, it's going to start going away. More and more of them are gonna be like, I really like living for comfort instead of living for Sparta. And they're going to become more corrupt as a society, less self-sacrificing. And so it's not really going to be all that great. I mean, you could kind of see this in like other societies too that try to be totalitarians. Like the Soviets, like they would try so hard to have their society be austere, strict, disciplined, living for the living for the people and all that stuff. But once they saw how capitalists live, they would totally jump ship. It happened all the time, and they were very scared of that, and so they wouldn't even let their people come visit free nations. So, Brasidas, who is he a general for?
Sparta.
Yeah, a Spartan general. But what set him apart?
He could actually win.
Could win, yeah. But did he always win through fighting?
No, he had peace leadership.
Yes. So very smart.
So he can stab people and actually talk to them
Yeah.
without talking about how to stab people.
He's diplomatic, as you remember. He was able to convince, even being a Spartan, he had good gift of speech and logic, where he could convince other cities to be like, "Hey, let my troops pass through here. We're not going to mess with you. Okay, you can do that." Or, "Hey, join our side. We don't want to kill you." Like, okay, yeah, we don't want to die. That sounds good. So, what did his army comprise of?
Some Helots and then Spartans.
Yeah, so he recruited. Oh, sorry. Hey, folks, who's having lunch today? By the way, 1, 2, 3, 4. All A lunch. Today's an A day.
I have B.
So B lunch are so 3 A's and 1 B. Is that correct? Anybody else an A or B?
He needs more of these.
Yes, please. Nice. All right, so yeah, he recruited. Handwriting getting messed up. Helots, Spartans, and we'll just say allies. So he was willing to see past his own Spartan bias, right? So he's very clever. He chooses to convince people of things instead of fighting them. He manages to pull in their allies to have better positions within the war. And he even offers freedom to Helots if they'll fight with them. So he's able to see past his own country's set of morals and stuff like that. That aren't that moral by modern standards, any means, for the sake of victory. So, what's going to happen to him in the end, though?
Dead.
Yeah, because who's he going to fight?
Cleon.
Cleon, yes.
Cleon.
See, he and Cleon will die in battle, fighting one another. Now, these two guys weren't like dueling or anything like that. They were both casualties of the war. Now, the Peace of Nicias. What caused the Peace of Nicias? It's that right there. They had this big battle. And how long was it supposed to last? Huh? 10 years.
50 couple days.
Yeah, 50 years. Very good. So after both sides lost their best generals and a large amount of their army, they decided to go for peace. Athens and Sparta. But like I told you, it's not going to last no 50 years. And poor Nicias is going to get caught up in the middle of it. Because a student of a guy named Socrates is going to come around and cause a whole lot of trouble, as we'll see when we come back next week. So, and there we have it. So, yeah, when we come back next time, we're going to go over chapters 15 and 16 next week. I can't really think of anything special next week. We might have a house thing Friday. I think they were wanting to do it every other Friday.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you. So I don't know how your fifth period teachers will feel about that, though, because that is kind of often. But we'll see how it works out. So if you're online, I'll post a picture of the notes for you, and I'll make sure that this goes into our playlist. And I'll see you next time. Hi, Trent.
Sir, can I see the hats, red,